Hello and welcome back to the City of Good Sports podcast. It's been a while, and by a while, I mean a while. I barely even covered the Sabres playoff run. I believe my last episode was about the NCAA championship final, which was quite a while ago. But we're back here to talk about the NBA finals. And I would be remiss to not talk about what I personally believe might be the greatest NBA game of all time. It has some competition. Listen, the Kawhi game winner against the Sixers is certainly up there. As a Bucks fan, I'm a little biased, but that Valley-oop game, the steal by Holiday, throwed it up to Giannis in Phoenix, that was pretty great. And of course, you have blocked by James. You have Game 7 of the 2016 finals. But is the OG putback not up there with all of those moments? So before we get into this iconic Game 4, let's just recap the first 3 games of the series. Game 1, we start to get the sense that this Knicks team might be a team of destiny. We see the first glimpse of the fact that Knicks fans travel really well. You saw it in Philly. They overtook the Philly crowds. They overtook the Cleveland crowds. They overtook the crowds in Texas. You were hearing Deuce McBride chants. They pretty easily won this game by 10. Game 2 is when Wemby made some mistakes down in the clutch. The home court advantage was even less in this game. But we had that Wemby turnover followed by his missed mid-range, which resulted in the Knicks winning the game. Game 3, the Trump stink, wore off on the Knicks. You had Secret Service screening. The players were getting patted down. It was just ridiculous, and Spurs ended up winning that game. And now we led to Game 4. Game 4, at first, it looked like it wasn't going to be that great of a game. At first. Cat got into foul trouble very early. Very, very early. I believe he had 2 fouls within the first 2 minutes. I don't know. Cat got out of the game very early. Then we saw some Mitchell Robinson minutes, and that Gatorade symbol was flashing. He was at like 40 energy with like 3 minutes played. He was gassed trying to guard Wemby. He couldn't guard Wemby in the first quarter. Then we saw some Hawk Tua minutes, some Sohan minutes. Huck Purdy is his real name technically. Mike Brown went deep into his bench, and it looked a wash, followed by the fact that Spurs were getting a ton of favorable calls, and they were just making everything. They were making everything from 3. Dylan Harper was making his 3s. Carter Bryant made a 3. And before you even knew it, and let's talk about the officiating too. Wemby didn't get called for his Game 3 obvious flagrant where he pushed Brunson to the ground. Wemby's been playing dirty all series. I've never seen a player's PR fluctuate this negatively from one series to the other. Obviously, it's the Thunder tax. People don't really like the Thunder, so he had a much higher perception in that series. But people are starting to hate Wemby, and it'll be this way for a while because he's going to be good for a while, and the Spurs are going to be good for a while. So it's nice that he's kind of becoming a little bit of a villain. But anyway, in Game 4, Mitch commits a flagrant against Wemby. It's a pretty obvious flagrant in a normal series, but it's not as bad as the push on Brunson, so it's a little bit of a hypocrisy there. It's a clear gold send on Luke Cornett that didn't get called. And the fix just seemed like it was in. Technically, the Knicks had more free throws attempted, but the Spurs were just getting all sorts of favorable calls. Combine that with the fact that they just couldn't miss. They were dominating. They went into halftime with a 76-49 lead, and they were 14 of 26 from 3. Now, this 76-49 lead was 27-point lead, which is the largest lead by a road team going in to halftime in the NBA Finals, excluding the bubble, which you could argue that's not a true road because there was no home court advantage. Everyone was just in that little bubble in Disney World. But also 76 first half points was the most ever scored by a road team in the NBA Finals and the third most in NBA history. So at this point, it looked a wash. It seemed like a blowout. Just chalk this up as a Spurs win. So now the third quarter comes around, and the Knicks defense really locks in. This third quarter, it doesn't get enough credit in the general scheme of the game but it was a huge turning point because their defense just locked in, and it was anchored by OG Anunoby. They held the Spurs to 4 of 20 shooting and 14 points overall. It was a game of runs. Brunson was hitting big shots. And they ended the third quarter being only down 15. But even at this point, I was like, wow, if they made up a 14-point deficit that quickly, because it got to 29 at its highest. So, damn near 30-point game. I still didn't think the Knicks had that much of a shot to win, but it didn't seem impossible, if you know what I'm saying. Would I have expected what is about to happen, or what happened to happen? Absolutely not. But this team is just so destined. It's a team of destiny. It's a team of fate. So the Knicks obviously had their first big run at the end of that third quarter. And it continued kind of like a couple minutes into the fourth quarter. At the start of the fourth quarter, the Spurs were kind of keeping even with them. You could tell the Knicks were playing better. But then the run just kicked off. And Brunson just makes so many big shots. Like, he really is Captain Clutch. Like, he was just so ready for the moment. But once again, the moment I really felt that the Knicks might win this was the bounce pass from Alvarado to OG Anunoby in the corner, the three that cut it down to 4. And that's kind of symbolic of what happened with the Knicks today. Brunson was making so many big shots, and he's the face of the team, but the guy who you really felt was the MVP of this game, really ended up eventually winning the game for them, was OG Anunoby. It was a little bit foreshadowing in a way, because OG Anunoby was also the anchor of their defense that led the Spurs to shoot 4 of 20 in that third quarter. He was, and he had 30 plus points. This was just an insane game from Anunoby. And that's not to take away from what Brunson did, because Brunson cut the lead to 1. He had Wemby on the perimeter, and this is where there's a little bit of an advantage as a lefty, is you see Wemby try to make that last second shuffle to block off the left, because instinctively as a defender, right, you're trying to take away someone's right, but Brunson's a lefty. But he's still staying up on the perimeter with him, and Brunson's just so fearless. He's so not afraid of the moment. He's just a killer, that he just shoots that 3 right in Wemby's face. Now, the immediate play after Brunson hits this huge 3 over Wemby, Josh Hart steals the ball, right, off of a shitty Fox pass. And we'll talk about how Fox played, because Fox had a worse mistake towards the end of the game. But Josh Hart almost blew it. He blew the layup. He was in midair, and you could tell he couldn't decide whether he wanted to lay it up or slam it, and it resulted in a whiffed layup. And this would have taken the lead. So, had the Knicks lost this, it would have looked really bad on Josh Hart, because that was a hell of a mistake. Another thing that seemed like a mistake was the Jose Alvarado not backcourt violation, and that's a really good knowledge of the rules of the game, because he did catch them off guard, because apparently you're supposed to have both 2 feet and the ball beyond half court. So that was just a good understanding of the game by Alvarado. And Alvarado was a huge game changer too. All of the minutes he played, Both first and second half were impactful. All the minutes he played in this finals have been impactful. He just plays so hard and gives 100% energy and 100% effort every time he's out there. As Landry Shamet said to him at the end of the game, he changed the game because he did. And you know he's a hometown kid, and you could tell it just means so much to him. Even the one game he had 4 rebounds in the first 4 minutes he played. He just plays with the utmost hustle, the utmost basketball IQ, and the fact that you could have 2 guys that are barely 6 feet out there against the Spurs, who have a very tall starting lineup. Especially when they sub out Fox for Harper. Obviously, they were out there when Fox was out there. But the Spurs have a very lengthy lineup overall. But they don't have the heart that Brunson and Alvarado do. And I truly believe that. Or Josh Hart or OG Anunoby. You know, this is a veteran team and it's an experienced team. And they've really shown that this finals, they're just so collected and they're so ready for the moment. I say after talking about how he missed the layup. But let's get towards the end of this game, right? Spurs lead is 1. De'Aaron Fox has an opportunity to dribble it out, get fouled, bring the lead to most likely 3. Wemby did miss 2 free throws, which has really gone under the radar because of this Fox mistake. Wemby missed 2 very important free throws towards the end of this game too. But Fox lays it up. And in his press conference, he didn't seem to even know what he did wrong. He was like, well, I thought I could outrun him. All you had to do was dribble the ball out. He lays it up, blocked by Anunoby, because Anunoby is just that good of a defensive player. He wants to win that much. He's that much of a vertical player. You hear people talk about the next Kawhi and all these 3-and-D players and why teams love 3-and-D players. Anunoby's so much more than a 3-and-D player. He brings so much. And that block was a prime example. But on the other end, right? Down by 1. Brunson takes a 3. Anunoby, you could tell it was an out-of-body experience. Flies in there for the game-winning tip-in. And then the play after, phenomenal inbounds defense by Karl-Anthony Towns. This play didn't get enough credit either. Karl-Anthony Towns had pretty much the game-winning defensive possession. Both him and Anunoby, but he tips the ball, resulting in a bad pass. Castle wasn't able to get the shot off in time. Knicks win, and they overcome a 29-point lead. You know how many things have to go wrong for a team to blow a 29-point lead? This was the greatest game I ever saw, and it's hard to even describe it. Like, you start to get speechless when thinking about it, because it was just such an out-of-body experience watching this game. I couldn't imagine being like a diehard Knicks fan. I've jumped fully on the bandwagon. I don't care. I'm as shameless as it gets bandwagon-wise. You know, I wish I was in New York. I wish I was on the other side of the state, not here in Buffalo right now. Because the energy behind this Knicks team is just incredible. It's incredible. So, closing remarks before we end this episode. Let's talk about Wemby saying, "I'm in your head," to Mitchell Robinson after the flagrant. You know how safe it is to do an aura gamble like that up 30 when you're dominating the entire game and say, "I'm in your head" to a player you're obviously better than, and still lose and blow a 30-point game. Wemby, you went out sad. And you can't even do your normal aura farming stuff anymore. You can't play chess in Central Park and read books and pretend to be cool because you blew a 30-point game. You know, you were in China with the Shaolin monks, and then once you ran into actual Shaolin, you know, you end up blowing the game. Another thing, Wu-Tang performed for a dead silent MSG, but they're a game changer, so shout out to them. Josh Hart almost killed Larry David, speaking of celebrities. Josh Hart almost killed Larry David on that misled. We can't lose Larry David. Come on, Josh Hart. You need to be better. And you owe OG Anunoby big time. He's probably so grateful for OG Anunoby right now because he saved his reputation. He saved him from getting stoned and released. Speaking of celebrities, hey, Tim Chalamet, Ben Stiller, Larry David, Tracy Morgan, Spike Lee. Let's make that group chat. You know, I want to be courtside the next game, so let's all hang out together. We could go to TGI Fridays, hang out together, and then sit courtside. It could be in San Antonio, because you know it's Knicks in 5. But if they go 6, hey, I would love to be at MSG courtside with you guys. So, you know, let's just make a group chat. See if we can do anything. You know.